much longer time than the previous one. It's going back for 43 years. Well, no, that'll be, so that's probably about 8, that's probably about 15. So 15 off of 43. So you got 33 years more. It's going to back up before it turns around, before you pick up something from another lifetime or from another area. And before that emotional quality of what you want or what you desire changes and slowly starts moving forward again. And in this case, it will probably come back again. So we have, let's see, this is 8, 50, see, this is about 15 years or 12 years, 43, 12, 53, 55, and then another 30 years. If you get to 85 or 80s, in your 80s, Venus may come back to its natal, in your 70s, it'll come back to its own place again for the second time. One, born, come back. Then it's going to move forward into your life, but it's still going to be colored by what happened in those years till you get to about 84, and then it starts moving forward unconditioned on a whole new level, based on where your health, where your mind, where your body, where things are. But this is how you make choices, how you give up choices. Sometimes you make choices to be married, and you've given up your choices, and they get anchored in, and it causes things to go for 40 years. Sometimes you're in there and you're working with it. Sometimes you're in there and you're not. Sometimes you're with a person and you're so happy to have them. It's just what you wanted. And then after a while, I said, this is what I wanted. And you're struggling with what you really want, and it's not what's expected. And there's deep, intense struggles around emotions. I mean, more people get killed because of rejected or stifled or repressed emotions than by anger. The jealousy, the envy, the Venus simmering, when it goes negative, can really long-term dark phases, long-term abuse phases, long-term thing. Boy. So these are difficult stories. If you're taking alcoholism, you could see reasons for what long phases or where people get in, or some of the senses behind it. So it's interesting when some people just come in and they're just going straight through their whole life. They don't go through this reflection, the slowing down, they don't get this, but experientially, someone who's Venus over these areas, they're really going to know what they want in these small areas. They're really going to know what you can get out of those degrees of this phase, because they've gone over it 2 or 3 times, 1 or 2 or 3 times. Here's someone born just with Mercury stationary retrograde. It's the middle. It's just turning around. So it's 8 more years out of the 7, 8 more years out of the 1 degree phase. It's 43 years back till it goes direct. So at midlife, they're going to go. They start with it. Stationary retrograde is going to go back before this lifetime. All their life, everything they have, it's going back before this. Before let's say 43, and then then it's going to go to that direct turning point at midlife, and it's still not necessarily what they want. It's like they have to go back to. They're in this life now, but their emotions are somewhere else. Trying to pick up things not exactly connected to it. That can be very frustrating if you're with someone, you want to be with them, and they're not exactly there in terms of what they want. Then it goes forward. It's not from 43, another 15 years. You're up to 58. No, that's 43 and 15 and 13. 43 and 13. 13 is about 56, yeah. So 56, you're coming looking at retirement. What are you going to do after that? Then it comes back, you're back here. And for the first time in your life, you start going forward with it. You start doing things you want. As you're older, that you never would have done before. It's just something's changed. A new value comes out. It comes out through grandkids, it comes out through letting go of kids, it comes out through traveling. You just start putting, your agenda starts moving forward and not colored by the past. So I'm just talking these words. When you're seeing in someone's life, you have to slow it down and talk to them and realize this. And sometimes you run across, you see where you get a hit of where someone is with their values. Sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes you don't see it right away. Sometimes you get it. And then you're left to think about it. You have to, even as an astrologer, you have to work it and think on it and sleep on it a bit to really come to it. It's not something you just say, oh, in a moment, oh, you're just here. It's not like the Venus doesn't work like that. It's better if you have a kid that's got a special problem, that's autistic or emotionally displaced or emotionally pumped, too beautiful. And when does it turn? When does it change? You can begin to start tuning into the phases of glamour and beauty and desire and passion and lust and sorrow and guilt of not getting what we want and not feeling good enough, not feeling beautiful enough, not feeling wanted. Whew. So someone's born here during their Venus retrograde period. I just put an example in the middle, somewhere in 20 years, in their first around 20 years. So if it's anywhere in there, it can be really, but then Mercury starts retrograde. It's already going back. You're born and your emotions are still tied to things from another lifetime. They're still tied, they're not connected to here. And you're going along with things. And you want things, you're just normal like everyone else, but there's an inner part of you that's reevaluating what's that there's something else you have to come across before your heart is free, before your emotions are clear. And you have to come back into this, and it can be a positive or a negative thing. It could be meeting someone for another lifetime, but this change of values will come in, and this will come in the 20s. Do you have money? Are you making money at jobs? Do you like yourself? Do you don't like yourself? All these things start struggling. What do you want to live the way you were brought up, or do you have to get different or live it differently? Sometimes you go out of an alcoholic home and you have to live differently, but your pattern's set. Sometimes you live in a poor area and you're just meeting people in the poor. How do you? It's big change. When you look outside, there's millions of things that can happen with Venus. We look at the inner development of the emotions, of the values, and we're looking at it abstractly here. When you put it in someone's chart and you're working with someone, you have the experiences around it, it allows an intimacy and a depth that is really quite incredible. Usually, even with most people are doing charts just with the transits, they don't get to work with the progressions that much. Someone's not that sensitive, they're just trying to solve a problem or get a plan outside. But when you get someone that's working with a chart and trying to work inwardly or develop their inner being or evolve, then the progressions are incredibly valuable. But even if the person isn't open and sensitive to their progressions, it's important that you as an astrologer have a sense of it. Because this progressions is going to affect the attitude with which you deal with your transits. So it'll affect whether you have 100% plus, I'd just be positive, just go do it. Like, it's not usually that. There's a whole bunch of conditions of what you want and what you don't want. Well, I can do that, but I don't really want it. Like, yeah, and if you don't get what you want, so this person would have to turn around in the 20s and would come back in the 40s. It would be back at the starting point again. So the first 40 years would be tied up to other lifetimes, going back. Your emotions aren't connected. It's old karma, old things coming in and reevaluating things, and then it comes back here and you get a chance to start over, start again. And then it moves forward from where it was in your lifetime, from where you started from, and start moving forward. But the moving forward is still tied into this retrograde, into this cycle, which by now, even if you're born here, you still have your emotions attached to the things that happened for a whole 40, 50 days before you're born, but 40, 50 years back before you were born, like back into other times. Lots of ways to explore this. I find it mostly subjective, and once you get the mechanics and you have the actual turning points, then you see what planets are being hit again and again. It starts to set the guidelines to look at it. When you get to a specific area, like in this case, when Venus conjunct Venus, you can go to the pentan, sub-pentan, and get more information and get it more detailed, or you can work the hexagrams and the sub-hexagrams and sub-hexagrams are really written deeply, and it would be really useful when it comes to trying to imagine what is being learned or what's happening here. It goes beyond our normal astrology logic. Then it moves forward into this life, but it's not until it gets to here, so it's going to be 22 years, and not the 30 years. So not until you're 50, in your 50s, you're going to get the completion part and think, whoa, that's over with. You're going forward, but really, then you're starting going forward with the other conditions or the other reflections going on. You're going forward more simply in what you want. Okay. Now here's someone, Venus is just, it's still retrograde, but it's just going in, it's 8 years before it goes stationary direct, but really we're in the stationary direct It's a 15-year phase, going into a 15-year phase where Venus is going to be in the same degree. We're going back into something, you're going back before your lifetime, and but it's really close. It's in the same degree. So you're born here, but it still has a more immediate effect. You know your values, what you want, which it's all tied to it. And at 8, there would be this turning point, starting school, going on, getting on to 7, 8. This would turn around, slowly turn around, until it comes back to its own place, which would be at about 15. And at 15, maybe you start getting like other people, start getting out of the house, start getting out of the home, and the older complex of emotions, whether you were wanted or not wanted, you start getting beyond that. You start going forward for what you want for yourself. And that's going to be a 15-year phase. But even that 15-year phase, so from 15 to 30, that would be about the Saturn return. That would make a big Saturn return, because then you're not only having your Saturn return in the transits here, you're getting a chance to start and make choices that you want that you never had before. And you're starting to go beyond the emotional concerns or circles of your concerns through your life, and it starts to be in new territory, in new areas. It's like a new you. I mean, we're looking theory, but in each person's chart, it's going to be a unique situation. You have a unique piece of this, and it's one of the planets. So in your progressions, it's how your emotions, what you love or hate, or what you want or don't want, evolve. And if it evolves in a stormy way or a beautiful way, if you have too much of anything, can spoil it. Too little of anything can really suppress things. So it's really the waves of your desires. So when you start to see, you take your history, you start to lay out how your life evolved, you see the turning point. You can see when your taste shifts or when your value shifts. You begin to see it on how it levels it working for you. If someone's born right when it's going stationary direct, they're still going to have about 8 years in this 1 degree zone, where it's still in the stationary direct period, this phase period, and they're still, well, it's a long time for that natal Venus to be accentuated that long, but it's moving direct, it's moving away from where it started from, and it's moving forward, and it goes forward, and that means at about 30, well, the 15, at about, so that means probably at 15, you get the completion point, and once you get through start getting to high school and university, maybe you meet someone, you start having things happening the way you want, it starts going for your talents, start coming out or getting recognized, start moving forward without being tied up in the normal circle of things. Don't forget, it's only one level. It's what you want, what you're doing about what you want, what you're thinking about what you want, what your confidence around it, all the sun, the Mercury, the Mars, all these things are tied in and working around this. So there's a whole texture. We're just looking at one stream in here. But when you're wanting someone, you say, what do I have to do to make you happy? What's going to make you happy? What do you want? What are you good for? Don't you believe it? Don't you think you're good in anything? What do you like? How do you make choices in your life? Some people make too many choices. I'll slow down a bit. That costs too much money. Some people don't make any, don't want, I'll never get it, so why should I make a choice? Wow, a very complicated area. Alcoholism and drugs are usually Venus-related problems of not feeling loved, so I'll take the escape. But the seeds are in Venus, about being appreciated, feeling liked, feeling loved. But many great things in the world come because someone doesn't feel loved and they have to do something to turn it around. Of course, many pathetic things happen over that reason too. So then someone's born, Venus is just direct, and it's past this period. It means it's going to go direct their whole life. So it's going to go straight forward, but there'll be one point when it gets this completion point, where it gets that retrograde, even though that's before their lifetime, and they're moving forward from that, that they're still affected by it. They're still affected by the cycles of what was going on before. And you could say people from past lives or other things that come up, but just other attitudes are still there. There's still something that's going to come up at this completion point that's going to, you have your values going forward, and yet something comes up from another time where something similar would be there. And then you start going, you make choices, and it goes on from there.